Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeaimMD here with another game from Smogon Tour playoffs. This time I have two buddies of mine playing. We have Poek and Steve Angello. Like I said, I would try to catch some of these live, and the ones that I can't, I will be doing post commentary. For the most part, I will actually be doing post commentary for this. But like I said, if I can find the game live while I happen to be on Smogon Tours, I will be recording it. But again, these are two really good friends of mine, and they're playing in Smogon Tour playoffs, which is best of three within Black and White OU, or Black and White 2 OU rather, ORAS OU, and then Sun and Moon OU. So they went through 9 weeks, racked up the points to get to playoffs, and here they are. So we actually have the Black and White game first. Now, Poek's team looks like a team that I have over here. I think it's a BKC team. It looks exactly like this team with just Terrakion over Breloom. But the rest looking like E-Belt Rachi, Choplatar standard, Slow King, which is really cool, being able to pivot and have Regenerator and whatnot, and then Scarf Landers, that's what I'm thinking. Whereas Steve Angello also looking pretty standard with his, like Specs Latios, Choice Scarf Mienshao, Defensive Rotom, Jirachi I'm not entirely sure based on the team, could be Spadef, could be Belt, and then maybe Bandit or SD Garchomp, I'm not sure, but Latios is an issue with hazards up, especially if Slow King gets Pursuit Trap. This is just me telling you what I assess from Team Preview, by the way. Whether I already saw the game, because I did glance over the game, but I do want to do commentary based on what I think their thought process was. But Rotom's pretty key in this, and the Mienshao, the Volturn combination. Mienshao being faster than what I'm assuming is Poek Scarfer. Mienshao being faster than every mon on his team outside of Terrakion anyway, so being faster than Scarf Landers, Scarf Chomp, and whatnot will be pretty key in this. Being able to spam U-turn, high jump kick, and whatnot. It could be Bantar though, plus Rocks Rachi. That's also another thing, or Choplatar. That could be it. But if it is Rocks Rachi, then more than likely is Bantar, maybe Scarf Terrakion, if I'm not mistaken, or Ban Terrakion, Scarf Landorus, Rocks. But like I said, the Volturn combination from Steve Angello is extremely, extremely threatening to Poek, and he doesn't have too much that can deal with it. So let's just get right into the game. So we see Jirachi lead versus Mienshao. This isn't too bad. Poek can take one high jump kick from Mienshao and get up rocks if he wants to, but it makes sense if he wants to switch out as well, seeing as how Jirachi is going to be his main switch into Latios outside of his own Tyranitar. So Poek chooses to switch out here, goes out into his Landers on potentially either the high jump kick or the U-turn. Either way, Landers could take it, as Mienshao does go right for the U-turn. It turns out it is defensive Landers because we do reveal the Rocky Helmet, so he's able to go right to Garchomp. Now, if you bring in Garchomp hard on a Rocky Helmet Landers, that is screaming Dragon Gem boosted Draco Meteor. You don't want to stay in and take that, or Dragon Gem boosted Outrage, but I'm thinking more so Draco Meteor. So Poek, figuring that was coming, goes on to Slow King, which is a special tank naturally, can take it and then get the regen. Unfortunately, though, it looks like he loses his Slow King turn 2, and that sucks because that was a fighting resist that he had for Mienshao that also has Regenerator that can also take on Latios. So that really did suck, though Landers can come back in if it wants to and get up some rocks, or Earthquake / HP Ice to weaken it. Decides to go for U-turn, more than likely assuming that the Rotom want to come in because he's -2, but Terrakion's job is to get up rocks. As Garchomp's job is to get up rocks, as Terrakion is going to come in. Steve Angello actually decides to sack his Tyranitar, which I think is very smart. It doesn't do anything in this game. Terrakion, Garchomp, Jirachi, his own T-Tar has superpower, and Landers all beat it. So that was very, very, very smart, especially because it lets him get in something like Latios or Jirachi if he wants to. So sacks Terrakion to the close combat, as Latios is going to come out. Now this is giant threat, especially if it is Spec Surf. So Poek is going to switch out into his Jirachi, just scouting for whatever move he wants to go for, as he does throw off a Surf with his Latios. Now if Jirachi is packing Icy Wind, it can 2-hit KO the Latios as well as lowering its speed, but it seems that Poek expects him to switch out maybe into Rotom or something, or his own Jirachi, gets up rocks, and that's going to cost him right there because Jirachi just goes right down, and that's another Dragon Resist, or that's his Dragon Resist gone. So Garchomp is looking like a threat, Mienshao also looking like a threat with potentially HP Ice in the back. Tyranitar does come out. I think Steve Angello notices that if he switches out, he'll die to Pursuit, so decides to stay in on the Pursuit, which is smart. Gets off a hell of a lot on that Tyranitar's Bandit Pursuit is going to be able to knock it out. We do see Jirachi come in, though, on the incoming Terrakion as he goes right for the Iron Head. I think the reason that he kept his Tyranitar alive was because he has extremely limited switch-ins he has extremely limited switch-ins to Mienshao. Whenever it comes in, if it goes for high jump kick or HPIs, HPIs can deal with landers. It can deal with Garchomp if it gets weakened, and he wants to be able to pivot from Tyranitar. So I understand that play. Or maybe he also thought it was special, which Terrakion could take on with the Sandstorm's Spadef boost. But Ironhead does a hell of a lot, as he's going to go right for the close combat, and that does so much damage. So that has to be banded Terrakion, but Jirachi fails to get KO'd as it can knock it out with the Ironhead. And again, Garchomp is looking like a threat. His opposing Garchomp, Mienshao, is looking like a huge threat, though. So Garchomp is going to go right for the dual chop. It could be Scarf Chomp. Looking at the Terrakion's damage, I'm thinking banded Terrakion, probably banded Tar, and Scarf Garchomp with dual chop to deal with Focus Sash, Alakazam, and whatnot, and defensive landers. So he goes for dual chop there. He's able to knock out the Jirachi as Rotom is going to come out. At this point, he doesn't really have a Rotom switch, and if he goes for Will-O-Wisp, something is dead. So he goes for the dual chop right here, maybe to try and dodge either Hydro Pump or Will-O-Wisp. Gets a crit on it, which is going to be pretty helpful, being able to wear down Rotom, because that's something that Landorus actually couldn't beat. Like, Landorus does have potential to beat the last two members, but the fact that it is special Garchomp makes it really hard. So dual chop fails to KO after the burn, as he does choose to go for Hydro Pump over the Pain Split. I think either way it was a fine play. Maybe expected him to go Tyranitar there, but either way, Garchomp is now weakened, Tyranitar is now weakened, and the Choice Scarf Mienshao is really, really, really threatening, because he can go right out to that and can either go for the HP Ice or the U-turn right here, as he decides to go for HP Ice. So Tyranitar does go down, and I believe Landorus will go down to the HP Ice as well after the Rocks damage. It's going to be close if it doesn't knock it out. But either way, even if it didn't knock it out, there was no way that Landorus could kill Garchomp at that percentage, or even a burnt Landorus, or even a burnt Garchomp could kill afterwards. But HP Ice is able to do knock out Landorus, and Garchomp is going to go down to the HP Ice, and that's going to be game one. So Steve Angello does take game one. Obviously, losing Slow King early to the crit sucked, especially because he was able to do this. He was able just to HP Ice spam in the back. Slow King would have been good for high jump kick or HP Ice. Could have been able to throw off Scalds, especially if Steve Angello played his Rotom the way it did. Like, it just ended up dying. But it made sense how he played it, because he didn't. I don't think there was a threat. Like, Mienshao always cleaned up at the end, especially with Tyranitar low and Terrakion gone, since he never had to risk high jump kick. So I think Steve played how they had to, and the crit turn 2 definitely opened up this door for him for this pretty straightforward game. So before we actually get into the next one, I'm just going to pause it real quick because I'm getting called, and we'll be right back. Alright guys, so we're back. Sorry about that. By the way, if you guys want to check out my clean 7 years merchandise, it is available till June 5th. The link is down below in the description. It ships worldwide, and that's available, like I said, till June 5th. But here we are with the ORAS OU game, 6th Gen OU, and it's looking like Poke's Diancie actually isn't going to be doing too much in this game. I feel like between Amoonguss to literally sponge every hit, Scizor to check it with Bullet Punch and counter most of its sets outside of HP Fire, which it more than likely has. They always run HP Fire. Weavile to outspeed it and pressure it with potentially Banded Icicle Crash, or even Life Orb doing a lot. Starmie being able to take a hit and threaten it with Scald, and even Thunderous outspeeding. I feel like Diancie is more of a liability. The Weavile can definitely be threatening towards Steve Angello's team, well, to both teams. One, Steve Angello's Weavile can get rid of Latios, which makes Thunderous a huge problem, especially if it is Nasty Plot. And having Scizor there to be able to 100% take on Weavile as well, Poke's Weavile is really good, because his Weavile is also pretty solid, being able to deal with pretty much every member on Steve Angello's team, even if he has low kick on this outside of Scizor. But Amoonguss can definitely be an issue, being able to sponge up this. But I'm thinking so the matchup is more in Steve Angello's favor, because he has pivots to take on everything and can pursue trap the Latios. Though if it is HP Fire Latios, it is going to secure a kill before going down, because it can either kill Scizor or smack Latio, or smack Weavile. Because his Draco Meteor switch-ins aren't really existent. Though I'm thinking more so it's Defog. I'm hoping it's HP Fire though, because that'll make this game really be cool. But we see Garchomp lead versus Heatran. Really, really, really solid lead on Steve Angello's part, because he does get up rocks for absolutely nothing. As Poet can go out into Gliscor. That's smart, gives him the opportunity to get up his Toxic Orb. He actually decides to, I believe, pull a double right here into his Diancie, as what he might have expected there was Garchomp to go for Dragon Tail if it was defensive Garchomp, or he may have expected him to want to switch directly into his Starmie, so he can just Mega Evolve and get off the Protect That way he can then go Alamola after. Either way, Scissor's out. Poke makes a good play here, though. Switches directly into his Heat Ran, acknowledging the fact that if he Mega Evolves and protects, Scissor will probably go for Bullet Punch into U-turn. And because his Heat Ran is more than likely his Rocker, he can get up his Stealth Rock right here. I'm thinking it is his Rocker just because he did not switch out. Or he didn't go for Rocks with Gliscor, and Gliscor is typically SD, not Rocks or Subtoxic or anything like that. Subtoxic would actually be a threat to this team, holy crap. So we get some Rocks right here as Garchomp is going to come out. Steve does make a really good double back out to Starmie, expecting the Alamola to come out. I mean, Starmie spins pretty safely versus the majority of Poek's team anyway. Weavile can Pursuit Trap. He does decide to pull back out into his Latios, though, expecting the Rapid Spin, as that's exactly what Steve goes for. And like I said, if this is HP Fire Latios, it can nab a kill right here. So Steve throws out the yellow color. Nice Thunder Wave as Poek goes right for Defog. A little bit risky considering he could have went. I guess it wasn't risky because he could have went Scizor anyway. And he can just drop a Draco here to the side because unfortunately it does miss. And now Steve is in control because U-turn Scizor can come in, U-turn right on out of there. Yep. And bring in either a Mungus or Thundurus. I would definitely go Thundurus first because it has a bit more offensive pressure, especially with Latios being paralyzed now. It can't switch in on multiple attacks, especially if it's Life Orb. So Latios does come out, and we do see Volt Switch. Now, this is not something I thought of at the team preview, that this is Volt Turn, but Volt Turn is actually very, very, very good versus Poek. The fact that this Thundurus is Volt Switch. Yes, Nasty Plot would have been a little bit annoying, but Weavile could have potentially won a 50-50 and Pursuit killed it, or knocked off Icicle Crash, whatever. But the fact that it's Volt Switch, he can always Volt Switch out into his Scizor, and whenever Alamola comes in, and especially if rocks are up, and it's a lot easier for Steve to get rid of the hazards than it is for Poek, because Poek has to defog with a Latios, a paralyzed Latios that can lose to half his team. So this really does force it into Steve's favor as he goes right out into his Weavile, loses the 50-50 there though, goes right for knockoff, but it wasn't necessarily a loss though, because getting rid of the item on Heatran, making it less of a switch into Scizor, getting rid of or knocking out Latios Devastator, or even getting rid of Alamola's leftovers makes it easier for potentially a Mungus or even Thundurus. So we do see the knockoff right there. He is going to go out to Garchomp, I guess just to get up his rocks. I might have went Starmie there because you can spam Scald, but it's smart of him to actually get up rocks. Wish passes out into Latios as it was risky because the Dragon Tail could happen, but it was more likely than he would go for Toxic or anything. So gets up his rocks as Latios is going to come in. Goes hard Scizor, pretty much figuring out that this is not HP Fire Latios, and unfortunately the yellow color does come through there, so Latios is not able to get rid of the rocks, and the Volt Turn combo does continue because he can U-turn out of there, either go Garchomp or Starmie. I would definitely go Garchomp here, and he can also start nailing him with Dragon Tails if he wants to, but doubles out very nicely into Thundurus, more than likely expecting Gliscor to want to come out, or Alamola. Very solid double on Steve's part. Like I said, he is in the driver's seat, especially because he's running this Volt Turn Thundurus that's going around. And once again, he's going to go for Volt Switch, which is also very smart because if Alamola chose to go for Scald or Toxic, he always had two good switch-ins. Either a Starmie with Natural Cure or a Mungus which would throw off a Spore if it wants to. Though Gliscor, a Toxic Orb already activating, and a Mungus running HP Fire more so than HP Ice in this generation, it makes sense that he would Volt Switch there. Though I'm under the impression that he might be Scarf Thundurus. I'm not sure though. Or that's the way he's playing it. He's playing it that it could be Scarf Thundurus. So Volt Switches out into his Weavile, and right here he does end up winning the 50-50, going for Pursuit, able to knock out Latios, and there the rocks are there to stay, and that's definitely Banded Weavile. I actually don't even think that was a 50-50. I'm pretty sure at 69%. We'll calculate right here, but I'm pretty sure at 59% Banded Weavile does knock out Latios. Let's see. Latios right here. We have Pursuit. Pursuit doing the exact same damage as Ice Shard actually, so I probably didn't have to say anything, but it does 74 min, so yeah, it was a guaranteed KO right there. So Steve playing it smart. I was a guaranteed KO. It wasn't even 50-50, my bad. But I think Poek was more than likely going off the chance that he didn't have Pursuit on it, but it did because it was Bandit Weavile, and he's able to Pursuit that, knock it out. He can go right out to Garchomp on the Stealth Rock from Heatran, and there's a few doubles that that Poek, or there's a few mons that he can bring in on this. He can either go Gliscor on the Earthquake / Dragon Tail, or Steve could actually double out into a Starmie, but goes for the save Earthquake, would make sense as Gliscor does come out. I'm not sure if it's SD or not, but he goes Scizor as a pivot. That's a very good pivot because even if Gliscor does go for SD, as it did, Scizor doesn't care. It's going to eat it up. Scizor also doesn't need health for this game at all. It just needs to be able to Bullet Punch Weavile and knock it out, and Bullet Punch Diancie, which it does to both of those at that range. So, very smart pivot on his part because it gets him a slow U-turn. That's why Scizor is one of the best megas ever, because he can just get slow U-turns out, and plus he can eat every hit. That's a +2 Earth. We did 40%. Get a slow U-turn right out into his Weavile, and he can definitely go for Icicle Crash here. But Steve actually decides to pull a double out into Starmie. Pretty smart, because it's definitely Alomola that's coming out right now. And this does give him the opportunity to rapid spin away the Stealth Rock, and the fact that Heat Ran is getting so low, it's getting worn down. This does give him the rapid spin, like I said. So he can get the rapid spin or even throw off a Scald. But Steve makes a very, very, very good play going for Thunder Wave. I mean, it was a good play all around, because Alomola could get full paired at any case, so it was always a good play right there. And if he went Weavile on the predicted rapid spin and tried to get the 50-50 right to get rid of Starmie, it worked out a lot, because he can now rapid spin right here. He can stay in if he wants to go for knockoff or the pursuit. Knockoff was definitely more likely because Scizor is so low, but Scizor can now come in and either U-turn or roost. I think more so U-turn would happen just to keep all offensive momentum, because if Heatran came in, he can go back out into the Weavile. But Thundurus is going to come out, and I think we're under the assumption that he is choice locked on his Thundurus, maybe not Expert Belt, but as you can see right here, he does go Weavile on the Hidden Power Ice, which is a smart play, because he can then proceed to take the next one and go for Pursuit if he wants to. But we do find out right here that it is more than likely Expert Belt, or maybe Yachi Bear, I don't even know, some type of Thunder set, and he can knock out the Weavile with the Volt Switch, as Garchomp can come right back out. Garchomp threatens Heatran, preventing it from getting up rocks. So again, very, very, very smart plays, and we find out that he was more than likely SD lead Chomp, because he does have the Outrage right here. Gliscor goes for Roost, smart on Poke's part, scouting for what type of Garchomp set it is, but again, Thundurus is in control. And Steve is definitely in control, because Thundurus is just a huge threat. You got Rocks working against Poek. You got still Amoonguss in the back to be able to pivot. Goes hard Weavile right here on the Swords Dance. That's smart, because that's pretty much what you expect. Because Gliscor can take 1 HP Ice from Thundurus and hit it really hard with a +2 Facade. If he gets a Brox, Gliscor could actually be a pretty big threat to his team. So he goes hard Weavile to not let him take advantage of that. And does a really good play as well, going for Pursuit, acknowledging that he would definitely switch out his Gliscor, seeing as how he needs Gliscor alive to actually be able to deal with Garchomp, to be able to deal with Scizor, and be able to break through them. So Pursuit was a good play, because it does put Gliscor in range of the HPI. It's a very good play on his part. Like I said, he's in full control, and he can now go out to Amoonguss, as Alomola does throw off a Wish, and he's going to double back out into Gliscor, because like I said, it is a pretty free switch for him. And Steve makes, again, a very aggressive double, goes up to Thundurus. It wasn't really an aggressive double, because at the same time, there was no way he would lose Alomola to Spore, because if he did lose Alomola, it would go down. And again, just going for that Volt Switch on the incoming Heatran, not giving it an opportunity to set up Stealth Rock at all, as Bandit Weavile is in, and Knockoff can definitely knock out Heatran, and looks like he gets the play right. I think Poek tried to stay in, expecting him to go for Pursuit there, but he loses Heatran, so no rocks for the entirety of the game. Weavile is still a threat whenever it comes in. Bandit Icicle Crash can deal with Diancie, and like I said, this is one of those matches where Diancie doesn't do anything, man. HP Fire doesn't 2-hit KO Amoonguss unless it gets a crit in the next turn, and Giga Drain's going to do so much to the point where he goes down to either knockoff or Volt Switch anyway, or even Hidden Power Rise from Thundurus. So again, it's one of those matchups where it really doesn't do anything. He's smart though to save this Pokemon and go out into Scizor. Scizor doesn't actually do anything either the rest of the game. SD Gliscor sits up on it. Diancie's already low enough to the point where it doesn't matter what he does, because Thundurus does outspeed it, and Alomola can Scald Burn it anyway. So he can either Bullet Punch here or go for U-turn. Actually, U-turn was a very, very solid play. Yep, he did go for U-turn. U-turn is a good play, because regardless if he stayed in or not, he got in Thundurus, and now he can go route to Thundurus here and just keep going for that Volt Switch. Alomola does eat it up, though. It does eat it up for breakfast, but it doesn't matter, because Amoonguss just gets to come in, get that Regenerator, not care, and Alomola has to go for Protect here. It has to get that recovery back. That way it can actually eat hits up from Garchomp. It's still looking pretty bleak for Poek right now. Yeah, it's definitely not looking too good for Poek right now. So we do see the Gliscor come out, which is pretty much the only switch into Amoonguss he does have left. Steve decides, nah, I'm not waiting for you, bro. I'm not waiting for you to pass to this. I'm just going to make the play hard into Thundurus. Goes right for the HP Ice. Gets an unfortunate crit on the Gliscor. Obviously, it wouldn't have KO'd, but now Gliscor, it can't switch it on any attack ever. Like, it can't switch it on Giga Drain from Amoonguss, which it might have been able to before. So he can knock him out, and it turns out it was leftover Thundurus the entire time. I thought it was actually about, wow, it's cool. But Thundurus can just Volt Switch on the Alomola, and again, at this point, it's pretty much game. Diancie can't come in on anything. Amoonguss can just come out and just start spamming Giga Drain. That way Diancie can't come in. and can knock out Alamola. Goes for Skull, doesn't matter because Giga Drain comes out, knocks out the Alamola, and his last is that Diancie at like 2% after rocks. So either way, it doesn't matter right here because, or 3% after rocks rather, because again, Steve Angello is able to take it 2-0 versus Poek in the playoffs of Smogon Tour. So good game to both of you. Steve was definitely controlling this match. The team matchup definitely. The fact that he did Volt Switch Stunners was really cool because it definitely allowed him to keep up momentum the entire game. So props to Steve. I think the first game though, if the Draco Meteor didn't crit turn 1, it would have done a hell of a lot to Slowking. It would have done so much. But crits in this generation, I mean, like, there was still a chance that like he could have done more in this game. I feel if he didn't get crit that turn 2. So it really did suck. But in this generation, or at least in ORAS OU, Steve just had control the entire game. He was in the driver's seat, and Volt Turn plus rocks were really just too much for Poek to deal with. But I hope you guys all enjoyed. Of course, if you did, you can feel free to leave a like, subscribe, do your thing. Like I said, you can check out my merchandise if you want. That's available till June 5th to celebrate 7 years on YouTube. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.